Chapter 921. 4 New Faces. The team that brought the most new faces to the All-Stars was Team Tiny Herb. Xu Bin, transferring to Tiny Herb and now operating Deng Fusheng's Night Angelica, had performed spectacularly in the past season. A player that always performed well had finally gained enough popularity upon entering a powerhouse team, reaching an all-star level. Another was Gao Yingji, the renowned young prodigy from Team Tiny Herb that grew up under careful guidance. He had missed his opportunity to receive the Best Rookie award, but after becoming a part of Tiny Herb's starting roster, was immediately elected as an all-star. The performance of this prodigy had satisfied the expectations that other people had set for him. He had performed as was expected of a core player of a team, developing the composure of a general. He was also of the same class and team as the god Wang Jiexi. The votes obtained under such circumstances were very stable. This was because fans often gave votes to the player they supported and liked the most. Since Glory fans were usually Glory players, the classes they liked limited the players they liked to some extent. Gao Yingji was on the same team, and had the same class as Wang Jiexi. The votes for Tiny Herb and Witches had to be split between them. The difficulty in getting into the All-Stars was higher than usual. Lu Hanwen was also in a similar situation to Gao Yingji. Lu Hanwen was called the greatest discovery of the season. As the youngest pro player in Glory history, he was eye-catching from the moment he stepped onto the stage. His mechanics weren't fully developed yet, and he didn't have much experience, but his passion and energy on the field was something many gods didn't have. If you had experts analyzing and voting, Lu Hanwen probably wouldn't be able to enter the All-Stars. However, the players that participated in the All-Stars were chosen by the fans, so there was much less rational analysis. The votes didn't mean you were strong, but it represented the support and love, expectations and well-wishes you gained. Lu Hanwen had gained that from the player base, and thus became an all-star. Another new face belonged to the new champion team's grappler player, Lu Boyuan. Lu Boyuan had performed amazingly in the playoffs last season, leaving a deep impression in everyone's minds. After obtaining the championships, he had naturally gained a lot of popularity. During the summer transfer market, Samsara paid a hefty sum to buy the all-star grappler from Tiny Herb. However, at the start of the season, everyone found that Lu Boyuan was still using Samsara's account, Grappler Chaotic Cloudy Mountains, and soon they also discovered that the silver grappler equipment belonging to Flying Drops was now equipped to Chaotic Cloudy Mountains. Samsara didn't seem to care for the popularity of the all-star level grappler account, Flying Drops. This action meant the fall of an all-star account and roused hatred from the fans of Flying Drops. Chaotic Cloudy Mountains had, inevitably, lost a portion of its supporters, but no matter what, Lu Boyuan and his Chaotic Cloudy Mountains had still received enough votes to become a participating member of the All-Stars, becoming the new Grappler All-Star. The aforementioned 4 were the new faces appearing in this season's All-Stars. Apart from them, the others were all players that had participated at least once before. The players who had already gained fame had a steady fanbase, so it was rather hard for them to fall out of the rankings in a fan-based vote like this. Especially for some gods, their fan support would be enough to bring them to this stage even if they had performed extremely poorly or barely appeared. Out of the 24 voted in, the one in the most awkward position would be 100 Blossoms Zhou Yuan. It was already Zhou Yuan's second time being voted to participate in the All-Stars, but in reality, with his skill, his fame, and even his performance, he would probably never see such high popularity. Last year, he had been voted in because of the god-level account he was using, Spitfire Dazzling 100 Blossoms. The fans voted for his account and pushed him onto the All-Stars stage. As for this time, with Zhang Jiali joining Tyranny upon his return, and then Tyranny bought Dazzling 100 Blossoms for him, many people were seething with anger. So, throwing their votes at Zhou Yuan's Blooming Blossoms became a way to vent that anger for them. With this special circumstance, Zhou Yuan was once again voted into the All-Stars, but he didn't feel lucky at all. Apart from awkwardness, all he felt was still awkwardness. Actually, the 4 new faces in this round's All-Stars was because of a special reason. The All-Star player Deng Fusheng's retirement created an opening amongst the All-Stars, but the one who made the most contribution was Excellent Era. The entire team had been relegated to the Challenger League, leaving 3 usually stable spots open for the taking. And, behind these empty spots, was a huge amount of ownerless votes. Deng Fusheng's votes were easily relocated, since most of his votes came from Tiny Herb fans anyways. So, all they had to do was give their votes to Xu Bin, who took Deng Fusheng's place, or another member of Tiny Herb. It was a little more awkward for Excellent Era though. With the entire team out of commission, Excellent Era fans had no place to put their votes. In the end, they would just give these votes to whoever else that they liked, or their rivals who they didn't like. So, it was reasonable that eye-catching rookies like Lu Hanwen could skyrocket right into the All-Stars. In this season, the number of neutral votes was a little too many. In the end, this season became the season in which the All-Stars lacked the most classes. Glory had 24 classes, and there were 24 All-Stars. What this meant was rather obvious. However, since the very first All-Stars, there had never been one where all 24 classes were present. The most tragic class was the Summoner, in which there had never been an All-Star player. Comparatively speaking, the last All-Stars had a rather even distribution of classes. Only Summoners and Paladins were missing, while Ghostblade and Brawler each had 2 All-Stars. In contrast, the current season's All-Stars had 5 duplicate classes. Li Zan and Wu Yuse's Ghostblades were obvious, always being voted in. Apart from these two powerhouses Tiny Herb and Blue Rain had also made contributions, giving duplicates for Witches and Blademasters respectively. Then there were the Brawlers, recreating the situation from last year. Tang Hao and Lin Jingyan were both voted in again, but this time 3 hits had become Tang Hao's character, and Lin Jingyan held the character Team Tyranny had built for him, Brawler Dark Thunder. Yet, the resentment that festered between the last pair of class duplicates had a much deeper impression on people than the Brawler pair. What a coincidence that this pair had an interesting relationship with Tang Hao and Lin Jingyan, too. This was because Tang Hao came from 100 Blossoms, and Zhang Jiali was currently Lin Jingyan's teammate in Tyranny. Now with Dazzling 100 Blossoms, he had returned after a year, clashing directly with his and Dazzling 100 Blossoms successors, Zhou Yuan and Blooming Blossoms. What would happen between them in this season's All-Stars? Those busybodies had long since become restless to know. It was unfortunate that these 4 could no longer go up against each other through the rookie challenges anymore. Whether they would face off or not, that was something no one knew. The All-Star weekend would bring all of these pro players and accounts together, and amongst them ran all sorts of tension. Enemies on the field, friends off the field. This was easily said, but there weren't many who really managed to achieve it. Especially those who transferred away due to their old team's displeasure. How many of them could act as if nothing had happened when facing their old teammates? No one would be as crude as to extend this to a PK off-field, but on the field, it was normal for people to use matches to relieve this stress. And this sort of cathartic action made the matches much more interesting for the spectators. Everyone was eager for the issue of Esports Home that was published before the start of the All-Star weekend, wanting to read up on all the drama that was hopefully about to occur. And so this year's All-Star weekend begun under the excitement and noise. Team Happy, represented by Yi Shu, Steam Bun, Chen Guo and Tang Ru, arrived on that day at B-City. With their plane unfortunately delayed, the 4 accepted Lu Guaning's escort arrangements. A car came to pick them up and took them directly to Tiny Herb's stadium. When the person responsible for leading them inside was still trying to figure out how to actually do that, Yi Shu had already led them into the building, obviously familiar with it. However, when it came to finding their seats, Yi Shu wasn't too familiar. He rarely sat in the audience seats before. The seating that Lu Guaning had gotten them was, of course, top-notch, much better than the 3 that Chen Guo had bought last year. Because of their delayed flight, the opening show of the All-Star weekend was over by the time they got there. The first order of business had begun already, the Rookie Challenge. In this season, the hologram projection technology had been completely integrated into Glory matches. After half a season, the audience had completely gotten used to and fallen in love with this new method of viewing. The viewing quality had seen great improvement, and the ticket sales for each team's home matches had hit a new high. The All-Stars were no different, also using this sort of technology. By the time Yi Shu's group had managed to find and set in their seats, the first match of the Rookie Challenge was already over. The 4 who only cared about finding their seats didn't even know who had been fighting who. The onstage commentator was already announcing the player for the second match. It was the most eye-catching rookie of the season, Lu Hanwen, that was up next. It had only been half a season, but this youngest ever pro player rookie seemed to already be viewed as best rookie. That was Blue Rain's Lou Hanwen. Blue Rain and Tiny Herb were arch-rivals, and the current season's All-Stars was played on Tiny Herb's home turf, so the treatment Blue Rain players would get was evident. However, when this 14-year-old pro player stood on the stage, the Tiny Herb fans weren't mean enough to boo him. The applause was a little scattered though. The host knew that Lou Hanwen was a very popular figure of debate, so he chatted with him a little more than usual. Lou Hanwen was as open as always, saying what came to him and bringing up the mood. It was only at the end that the host asked what everyone cared about most. Then, "Little Lou, who are you going to challenge today?" "Let me take a guess, is it your senior from your team, God Huang Shaoshan?" "Nope," Lou Hanwen shook his head. "Oh, then who is it?" The host had been confident in his guess, so he was surprised upon hearing this. That was when Lou Hanwen took the mic and turned to the pro player stands. "Tiny Herb's senior Lou Xiaobi, let's settle this once and for all." Chapter 922. Changed beyond recognition. Lou Hanwen had amazed numerous people within the first half of this season. In this year's Rookie Challenge, he had once again shocked everyone. Many people had guessed the same as the host and thought that Lou Hanwen would challenge his own team's Huang Shaoshan. It was similar to how many rookies chose to challenge the god, which they admired the most. While the event was supposed to be a challenge, perhaps it was considered more as paying respects. But Lou Hanwen had chosen Team Tiny Herb's Lou Xiaobi. It was quite puzzling. Team Blue Rain and Team Tiny Herb were rivals, but what was the relationship between Lou Hanwen and Lou Xiaobi? Lou Hanwen's most admired blade master couldn't be Lou Xiaobi, right? Or maybe he was saying that Lou Xiaobi was weak, so he called him out to get a win over him? That wasn't paying respects to your favorite senior player. No one knew that the relationship between the two had started during the summer break. At that time, the two were helping out their respective guilds and encountered each other while fighting for wild bosses. Lou Hanwen had been using his Flowing Cloud account. However, he wasn't become an official pro player for Team Blue Rain yet, which had astonished Lou Xiaobi. As for Lou Xiaobi, even though he was using an alternate account, who else but a pro player had such skill? Once Lou Hanwen started fighting with him, it wasn't hard to guess that he was Lou Xiaobi. Lou Hanwen had won that match in the end. His win was somewhat despicable though. It had originally been a 1v1 duel. After all of their mana had been depleted, they fought using only normal attacks, but Lou Hanwen relied on a cleric's prayer wish to restore some of his mana and cleanly finished off Lou Xiaobi, who only had a sliver of health left. In theory, it should be Lou Xiaobi challenging Lou Hanwen for revenge, but this kid was the one to challenge Lou Xiaobi instead, giving him another chance to pay back his debt. This move surprised even those who knew about their relationship. There were a few people who knew about their duel in the game. The players from Team Blue Rain and Team Tiny Herb didn't need to be mentioned, but there was also Team Tyranny's Zhang Jinji and Lin Jingyan who had been present, as well as Yi Shu's group. They had watched the duel that day. Lou Xiaobi left his seat on Team Tiny Herb's side after being picked and went up onto the stage. The question for why so-and-so was picked as an opponent was a question asked thousands of times before, but this time, everyone truly wanted Lou Hanwen to give an explanation. "Ha, it's nothing really. I just really want to beat senior Lou Xiaobi." Lou Hanwen's reply didn't explain anything. "Oh, why do you say that?" The host pestered him. "Because every time I've fought with him before were never true duels," Lou Hanwen said. Over half of the season had passed. Team Tiny Herb and Team Blue Rain had certainly fought against each other at least once. In that match, did Lou Hanwen ever clash with Lou Xiaobi? Many people had thought of this question when he picked Lou Xiaobi, but no one had a definite answer. This time, everyone felt like it must have been something that had happened off stage, so they tried even harder to recall whatever they could. However, no one thought that it was because of what happened in the game. Seeing that Lou Xiaobi had gone on stage, the host obviously had to go greet him. After some small talk, the main subject came: "Would the two of you like us to provide the characters?" "No need," Lou Hanwen said. Lou Xiaobi shrugged his shoulder, indicating that he didn't care. The host was very excited. From an audience's point of view, they wanted to see the players use their own characters to fight each other. Then let's welcome the contestants for the second match of the Rookie Challenge, the youngest player in the history of glory, Team Blue Rain's Lou Hanwen, versus the Handspeed Master Team Tiny Herb's Lou Xiaobi. The host shouted loudly and both players went to their respective seats on stage. They swiped their cards and picked the map. The host quickly went off stage. The projection of the map burst to life. Neither of the two wasted any time, and the match soon began. Liu Xiaobi's Blade Master, Flying Sword, and Lu Hanwen's Blade Master, Flowing Cloud appeared on the opposite corners of the map. Don't look at how Lu Hanwen's Flowing Cloud was younger. In terms of equipment, Flowing Cloud was no weaker than Flying Sword because Team Blue Rain had the strongest Blade Master, Sword Saint, Troubling Rain. This meant that their team had the best tools to create Blade Master equipment. Under this kind of environment, building another Trouble Rain wasn't impossible to create. However, on Team Tiny Herb, Blade Masters weren't their core class, so the resources invested into it were slightly less. Even so, Flying Sword was only a tad bit weaker than the most powerful Blade Master in all of Glory. Flying Sword was one of the top Blade Masters too. His silver weapon, Chasing Spirit, had a fairly normal name, but it was a top-tier silver weapon reputed as one of the 10 famed swords of glory. It had a 5% chance of hitting twice. No one but Team Tiny Herb knew about this weapon's special effect and why the weapon was called Chasing Spirit. Lu Hanwen's Flowing Cloud had a total of 10 pieces of silver equipment. This number was equal to the Sword Saint's Troubling Rain. His silver weapon, Flame Shadow, was a greatsword with extremely high attack and extremely long range, but those were all general trends for greatswords. The unique part of Flame Shadow was its weapon effect. It had a 5% chance of adding a Flame Shadow buff to the attack, increasing the damage dealt by 30%. It was a buff that purely increased the damage inflicted. The commentator quickly introduced the two Blade Master characters. After the countdown ended, the two rushed forward. The commentator had yet to finish talking about the two characters when the two came across each other. The commentator had no choice but to stop reading aloud information on the two characters and began commentating the fight. Because it didn't appear to be a match of paying respects to the senior, the winner of the match was important. This type of confrontation naturally drew in a lot of attention. Liu Xiaobi didn't hold back facing this rookie. He wanted to strike first, taking advantage of his Chasing Spirit's higher attack speed. Flowing Cloud with his greatsword didn't wait to take a beating. Practically at the same time that Liu Xiaobi's Flying Sword closed in with triple slash, a sword slash was drawn in a circle. When greatsword users sword slashed, their attack wasn't as fast, but their range was greater. Flying Sword was enveloped by this sword slash, but the hand speed expert Liu Xiaobi didn't back down and ate the strike head on. His Flying Sword's triple slash struck diagonally, and his character deviated to the right, narrowly dodging the greatsword's swordwind. Following afterwards, Flying Sword threw out the third strike of triple slash and closed in on Flowing Cloud. Ding! The ringing sound of two swords clashing echoed. Lu Hanwen quickly reacted. Flowing Cloud retracted his sword and raised it up to guard, blocking Flying Sword's third strike. This ringing sound seemed to be the opening to the prologue. Following afterwards, ding-ding sounds exploded repeatedly like popping popcorn. The two characters revolved around each other and kept on attacking each other. Their initiations and retreats happened in an instant. The battle had only just begun and the intensity had already reached its peak. The battle of hand speeds was just getting started. The applause was like thunder. This type of confrontation showed the incredible technical skills of the two players, which was extremely fun for normal players to watch. It was what the audience liked to see the most. Everyone wanted to be a hand speed expert. They placed nearly as much importance on hand speed as they did on the other elements required to be considered an expert. On one hand, hand speed was without a doubt a fundamental aspect of an expert, but it was also because an expert with high hand speed could produce this kind of a beautiful fight. The two were extremely fast with their attacks. Some players couldn't even keep up with what was going on. The screens suspended in the center of the stadium kept on playing slow-mos of their confrontation. Sword light flew and blood splashed wildly. The health of the two characters slid down, and gradually, a slight divide could be seen. Flying Sword's health was just a tiny bit higher than Flowing Cloud's. Liu Xiaobi was considered an extremely talented player. This talent referred to his hand speed. This was analogous to an athlete, who was born with an extremely outstanding body. These innate constitutions couldn't be achieved through blood and sweat. This was pure talent. People always had high hopes on talented people. Liu Xiaobi was one of these talents. Although Team Tiny Herb already had 3 all-stars before he came, they still placed a lot of importance on him. However, his performance during his 2 seasons of play were rather disappointing. He had talent, but he was improving too slowly to match his talent. In comparison, among the players who joined the alliance that same year, 2 had become gods. One was Sun Xiang, who had come out of a lower-tier team. He swept away all those in his path and became a god. Then, he transferred to Excellent Era and inherited the Battle God One Autumn Leaf, becoming the successor of the first god of glory, Yi Chu. The other was Tang Hao, who was similar to Liu Xiaobi. He had come from Team 100 Blossoms, which managed to reach the finals 3 times. No one dared to underestimate such a formidable team. Tang Hao didn't have such attention-grabbing talent like Liu Xiaobi. He also didn't show any incredible performances in his first rookie year. Just when he was considered an average pro player, he grasped Zhang Zhao's retirement. While Team 100 Blossoms had lost their core player, he quickly made an impression on everyone's minds through his incredible play. He transferred to Team Wind Howl this season, inheriting the number 1 brawler, Demon Subduer, and becoming the core of the team. With the support of strong teammates, it was all uphill from there. On the other hand, Liu Xiaobi had come from a top-tier champion team like Team Tiny Herb and had enviable talent, but after 2 seasons in the pro scene, apart from people having a deep impression of his astonishing absolute hand speed, he didn't leave any lasting, spectacular plays. No one was willing to just be mediocre. This summer, Liu Xiaobi was determined to improve. While others went to relax, he continued to work hard and even went on a crusade in the game. Hard work always paid off. This season, Liu Xiaobi's performance was outstanding. In the All-Star rankings, he was 25th place, but he was less than 100 votes away from Zhou Yuan in 24th place. As for Zhou Yuan getting into All-Stars, that was because of his special background and the special circumstances. He was supposed to have a spot at the All-Stars. Lu Hanwen was a new rising star this season. The two had already fought against each other over the summer. This time, in the All-Star rankings, Lu Hanwen placed 18th. For a rookie, it was an incredible achievement. But would that make Liu Xiaobi think he was inferior to him? No way. The outcome could only be known after asking the sword in his hands. Chapter 923. Liu Xiaobi's goal. The two sides were fighting against each other furiously when Lu Hanwen's flowing cloud suddenly leapt up, turning and drawing his sword. The afterimage of the sword flashed past in a blur, and the dust and mud around Liu Xiaobi's flying sword was thrown up before the attack even landed. Falling Blossom Form. The skill that Lu Hanwen was using was, impressively, one of the new Blade Master skills added after the level 75 update. It had only been a month since the update had been released. If you counted the time it took to get a character to level 75, then it had been an even shorter time since these techniques had been learned. Normal players would impatiently start spamming these skills wherever they could, but pro players couldn't be so careless. It was okay if they tried it out when playing for fun, but in an official match, who would dare to use a skill they weren't totally familiar with? A skill that they hadn't fully integrated into their playstyle was a skill that could become a fatal opening. The All-Star weekend obviously didn't count as an official match, and the wins and loses there didn't truly count. That was why in the last 2 matches, the participants had all used the new skills, and seemed rather familiar with them too. Pro players adjusted to these new additions and changes much faster than normal players would. However, since they wanted a full understanding of the skill and how to use it, they would be more careful about it. For a match that was more a show than anything, it was fine to use a few unfamiliar or incomplete styles and techniques. However, Lu Hanwen and Liu Xiaobi's match felt a little different from the moment Lu Hanwen had sent out that challenge. After all, who would say, "Let's settle this once and for all," in the rookie challenges? As expected, the two gave it their all once they started, like they were fighting in an official pro match, and neither of them had used a new skill. Yet in this moment, Lu Hanwen surprisingly used Falling Blossom Form. The skill was activated by flowing clouds, pulsing sword energy arising from his broadsword flame shadow and streaking through the air towards flying sword. Ah! This is Falling Blossom Form. A new level 75 skill. The new skills have yet to be used until now in their fight. It can be seen from this how seriously they're taking this match. Yet, now, a level 75 skill has finally appeared from Lu Hanwen. He really is like a newborn calf that doesn't fear a tiger asterisk. All those who cared to follow news about Blue Rain, about this pro player, probably all knew that Lu Hanwen is the one who would boldly use a new skill in the first match after the new update. In the entire pro circle, he was the only one. So, that's why we say he's an amazing young man, always managing to do the unexpected. Quote. The commentator spoke very quickly, but no matter how quickly he spoke, he still had too much to say. By the time he had finished his ramblings, Flowing Clouds and Flying Swords had already finished several exchanges. It didn't stop at Falling Blossom form. After Falling Blossom form, Meteor form, and Piercing form were unleashed, both level 75 new skills. Glory didn't limit the number of new skills for each level stage to 1, especially not after the level 55 update. This was because, from this point onwards, every new stage meant a whole new chapter of the game, so the contents had to be as abundant as possible. One skill was just too little, so there were often several new skills that were released together. For Blade Masters, 4 new skills were added for the level 75 update, all with form in their name. Falling Blossom form, Meteor form, and Piercing form were all skills from the most recent update. Lu Hanwen used these new skills to mount a new round of offense. Though the commentator hollered over this excitedly, but from the situation, it seemed that the 3 new skills didn't have much of an effect, no help in getting Lu Hanwen the upper hand. Ah! The commentator yelled out again. After Lu Hanwen's 3 forms, Lu Xiaobi's Flying Swords quickly counterattacked with a skill of his own, and that skill was the only form that Lu Hanwen had yet to use, Curving Wind form. Flicking the tip of his blade, the sword energy didn't stab forwards viciously, but instead swirled to the tip of the blade from its surroundings. The force of the energy blew the dust and earth, swirling into the air, displaying the power of the skill. Lu Hanwen seemed to sense the danger, hurriedly getting Flowing Clouds to turn and defend. However, he was still a little too late. The backwards moving sword skill somehow attacked from behind Flowing Clouds, striking him as he to block. Thus, the effect that this attack had wasn't to blast its target away, but instead to pull its target towards the attacker. Flowing Clouds, his body being thrown forward against his will, threw out his sword, just managing to parry the strike that Lu Xiaobi had sent out. Applause rung out in the stadium. Lu Hanwen, back turned to Flying Swords, had managed to parry so accurately as he turned Flowing Clouds around. What was marvelous? This was it? This parry surprised even Lu Xiaobi a little, but it wasn't enough to mess up his plan of attack. Long before he had struck out with Curving Wind form, he had thought through his next actions. If his first strike didn't hit, he still had others. Lu Xiaobi's APM suddenly jumped. Just because he wanted to improve in other aspects didn't mean that he would neglect this talent of his. Hand speed, that would forever be his ace. Seeking improvement in other areas was, in the end, simply just to better the use of his best talent, allowing him to utilize his hand speed to the fullest. He might not yet be able to complete a whole match at this level of APM without mistakes, but a short period of time like this, after 2 years of cumulative experience and a summer of intense practice, was something he had complete confidence in. Ah! Amongst the shocked cries from the crowd, resplendent light from his blade lit up the battle. Lu Xiaobi, who had once set out on a path he shouldn't have, had come out of his cocoon anew. Last season, he had gained the title of King of Dueling, proving himself fiercely. He didn't slow after his success either. After a summer of intense practice, half a season of ablution, today's Lu Xiaobi was even stronger than last season. He didn't care about an award like King of Dueling, he was aiming for something even higher. Sword Saint. This was an unofficial title, but one that everyone else acknowledged, the true glory title for the best Blade Master. That was Lu Xiaobi's true goal. Lu Hanwen? He was a great rookie player, but he wasn't the one Lu Xiaobi was aiming to succeed. Formless Phantom Blade. The powerful skill was unleashed. Talking about pure DPS, none of the new level 75 4 forms of fencing dealt as much damage as Formless Phantom Blade. That was why Formless Phantom Blade was still the Blade Master's strongest DPS skill, and with the update and level limits, there was more room for skill strengthening as well, once again increasing the damage of Formless Phantom Blade. However, what was surprising wasn't that 15 blades, with the commentator's yell, all of the audience raised their heads to look at the big screen. With the holographic projection technology, the screen used for live broadcasting was no longer used for that purpose. Instead, it was used to replay the best moments of the battle, some shots of the audience, and the statistics and data of every match. Of course, there was also the conversations some players had during matches. This was something the audience loved, but couldn't be projected by the holographic projection technology. It wasn't like they could just put speech bubbles above the heads of the characters, that would just ruin the 3D effects. Now, looking up at the screen, what everyone saw was the statistics for Flying Sword's Formless Phantom Blade under Liu Xiaobi's performance. 15 blades. This was how many combo hits the skill could make based on the player's mechanics. Before this, the highest record made by the pros of the Alliance was only 13, and Liu Xiaobi had instantly raised that record by 2 blades. This was something he managed through his hand speed alone. There was no other way. After a period of shocked silence, the audience suddenly erupted into thunderous applause. Many people were even so moved that their tears were close to flying out like a whirlwind. This was Tiny Herb's home turf, after all, so no one supported their players more than them. 15 blades created by Formless Phantom Blade, not even Huang Shaoxin could do that, right? However, their player Liu Xiaobi had managed to do so. During this match where a blade master from Blue Rain had challenged him, he had completely managed it. Liu Hanwen's flowing clouds finally fell to Formless Phantom Blade's last blade. He had gained everyone's attention when he got on the stage, but throughout this match, the spotlight moved off of him. This rookie challenge had helped Liu Xiaobi's popularity soar. Even though Liu Hanwen was a rookie, he was still an all-star player, but the 15 blades of Formless Phantom Blade was a reality. Whoever didn't accept it, then they could come and challenge it themselves. Amazing, even Yi Shu couldn't help but praise this limit-breaking show of mechanics, applauding. I wonder how many blades I could get. I'll try with a blade master after I get back, Tang Ru mumbled. And you? If it were you, how many blades could you achieve? Chen Guo asked Yi Shu. That would depend on the situation, Yi Shu replied. Your limit, Chen Guo said. Never tried, Yi Shu shook his head. I've tried, 7 blades for me, Chen Guo sighed. With your skill, there's no need for you to brag, right? Yi Shu responded. Do you want to die? Chen Guo was depressed. She had been careless, saying something like that in front of Yi Shu. Steamed Bun, on the other side, was shaking his head. What's up, Steamed Bun? Can you make more blades? Chen Guo asked with a smile. I don't like the way the number 15 sounds, Steamed Bun sighed. Quote. The match came to a close with Liu Xiaobi's amazing explosion of skill claiming him victory. The applause from the audience didn't stop. Such an exciting rookie challenge was rare. The projected image was fading, but it didn't flash off suddenly, but faded slowly from the outside inwards. It was the All-Star weekend, of course it would be a little more grand. Yet it was then that Flying Swords, having yet to leave, threw out his arm, his silver weapon chasing Spirit stabbing forth swiftly. Everyone was still puzzling over this action when the scene faded and Flying Swords disappeared. An observant few seemed to have realized something and looked in the direction that Flying Swords had stabbed at. The big screen, too, replayed the action made by Flying Swords, and then the scene switched to place the sword had been pointing towards. Team Blue Rain, Huang Shaoxin. Chapter 924. Listless. The cameras zoomed in on Huang Shaoxin. Everyone in the audience could see it on the screens above. The crowd immediately exploded into an even greater uproar. Countless Tiny Herb fans began shouting and whistling, intensifying Liu Xiaobi's challenge towards Huang Shaoxin. On the screen, a teammate nudged Huang Shaoxin and then pointed in the direction of the screen. Huang Shaoxin smiled and waved his hands at the cameras. The crowd roared. This guy probably didn't know what was going on, did he? Was he not watching the previous match? Huang Shaoxin was very confused by the crowd's reaction until the teammate next to him said a few words to him. He suddenly understood what had happened and stared at the camera with a smile. He continued smiling. The cameras couldn't focus on Huang Shaoxin the entire time. It seemed like he didn't care, so the cameras turned away in disappointment. The instant the cameras turned away, Huang Shaoxin's 2 hands quickly shot up and gave Liu Xiaobi the middle finger. Hurry up and go back. The director of the broadcast shouted violently. The cameras quickly focused on Huang Shaoxin again. Everyone watching the All-Star weekend once again saw Huang Shaoxin smiling. His smile was no different than before. Everyone was puzzled. Was the stream lagging? This guy is too crafty. The director felt very depressed. Flipping someone off was very uncultured. If the live stream had caught it, Huang Shaoshan would certainly be fined by the alliance, but in their current situation, as long as no one reported this incident, even if the alliance knew, they would turn a blind eye towards it. Without the cameras on him, there were only a few people who could see him giving the middle finger. This was Team Tiny Herb's home stadium, so it was filled with Team Tiny Herb fans. When they saw it, they went into an uproar and created quite some noise. Those who didn't know what was going on were very puzzled and naturally turned to ask others about it. As a result, news of Huang Shaoshan giving the middle finger to Liu Xiaobei was spread by mouth, and the uproar in the stadium grew louder like a rising wave. Practically no one cared about when the next rookie challenge match would be taking place at this point. The stream's commentator was still carefully commentating the next match of the rookie challenge, but his heart felt so stifled that it hurt. Such a magnificent scene had actually been missed by the cameras. What was going on stage was very ordinary. It was an exhibition match where the younger generation paid respects to the older generation. In the end, the senior god won. He gave the junior a word of encouragement, and the junior expressed that he would take this opportunity to learn from his senior. How boring. The commentator was about to fall asleep, but even if he felt bitter inwardly, he could only falsely raise his spirits and talk very excitedly about his admiration for this match. The broadcasting team was the most sullen out of everyone on the first day of All Stars. There had been such fat, juicy material, but the scene of the crime wasn't caught by the cameras. In hindsight, there had been numerous measures that could have been taken. For example, they could have talked to the alliance to see if they could give Liu Xiaobei special authority to issue a challenge. It was the All-Stars anyways. The matches were just for fun, so more Easter eggs couldn't hurt. Unfortunately, everything only came to light post facto. The event had lost its immediate value. It could only be embellished into a good report afterwards. Various titles, such as the Challenge of the New Generation, quickly sprouted in the minds of many reporters. In the following Rookie Challenge, another good piece of material was supplied. Team Wind Howl's Zhao Yuji challenged Team Misty Rain's Chu Yongshu. When asked his reason for the challenge, his reply was, "I want to be the #1 elementalist." Kids nowadays have such drive, Yi Shu sighed. Zhao Yuji wasn't as brash as Tang Hao last year, who had claimed that the junior would succeed the senior, but the intent behind his words was very obvious. Good. How ambitious. The host shouted loudly, "Then, please welcome Team Misty Rain's captain, Chu Yongshu, to the stage." Amidst the applause, the commentator seized this opportunity to use this as a topic to talk about. "I'm sure everyone still remembers that in the Rookie Challenge last year, the 2-year veteran Tang Hao shocked everyone with a 'the junior succeeds the senior' and defeated Lin Jingyan in the end, replacing him not only in name, but also in reality, as the #1 brawler. He transferred to Team Wind Howl this summer and took Lin Jingyan's position. Now let's look at Zhao Yuji. He's also from Team Wind Howl and Tang Hao's teammate. Could his challenge have been influenced by Tang Hao's move last year? After Zhao Yuji won Best Rookie last year, he continued to perform spectacularly this season. His position in Team Wind Howl is stable, and his team's achievements have been quite impressive too. He's a player with a bright future. During this introduction, Chu Yongshu had already gone down from his seat and onto the stage. There weren't many female pro players in Glory. Only Chu Yongshu and Su Mucheng had been able to squeeze onto the All-Stars list. Su Mucheng wasn't eligible for All-Stars because of Excellent Era's relegation this year. At the moment, Chu Yongshu was the only female player among the 24 All-Stars. Chu Yongshu was also from the Golden Generation. She had been a pro player for many years and had assumed the role of team captain. It wasn't easy to make her lose her calm. When the cameras zoomed in on her, she didn't seem to have any peculiar reaction towards Zhao Yuji's impolite challenge. She shook hands with Zhao Yuji and received a few questions from the host. Everything seemed very normal. The host harbored evil intentions and wanted to deepen the conflict, but she easily neutralized all of his attempts. How oppressing. The broadcast team once again felt stifled. When Liu Xiaobei pointed his sword at Huang Shaoshan, it felt like a tempest was about to come. A black cloud rolled out, and then nothing happened after that. This time, Chu Youngshu's calmness made Zhao Yu's challenge, which had already been less brash than Tang Hao's challenge from last year, appear even more like it was a stick hitting cotton. Why couldn't this year's rookie challenge produce any highs? The broadcast team was quite depressed. They forgot that the previous rookie challenges rarely had any highs. It was just that last year, there had been several very abnormal and significant challenges in a row, raising the expectations for this year's rookie challenge. For this year, Liu Xiaobi pointing his sword at Huang Shaoxian and Zhao Yu's challenge to take the top seat was already quite exciting, but it just couldn't compare with last year's. Both sides are ready. The match will soon begin. This match will be the same as the match with Liu Hanwen and Liu Xiaobi. Both sides will be using their own pro characters. On the left side of the map was Zhao Yu's Howling Fire. On the right side of the map is Chu Youngshu's Windy Rain. Chu Youngshu is the only female player among the 24 All-Stars this time. She doesn't seem to have any peculiar reaction to this unfriendly challenge from her junior. Quote, the commentator introduced the scenario. Haha, many of our friends watching knows very well that even in important matches like the playoffs, Chu Youngshu always remains this calm. This kind of attitude isn't anything strange. The commentator's co-caster, the honored guest Li Yibo, said a few words. As long as it was an important match, Coach Li would always be there. For an exciting event like the All-Star Weekend, the number one guest commentator would of course be sitting. Those who used their heads would realize that his evaluation of Chu Youngshu actually contained some hidden implications. He was criticizing her lack of passion for the game, which was why she would frequently be unable to hold on during important matches. It was one of the huge problems that had plagued Team Misty Rain. After the match started, in the public chat, Zhao Yuji typed out a helpless expression, "Senior, I hope you'll treat this match seriously." Haha. I will, Chu Youngshu replied out of politeness. After a brief exchange in the chat, the two sides have now drawn closer to each other. The commentator continued. Everyone, look. Zhao Yu's Howling Fire isn't going directly at her. He's taking a rather roundabout path. It looks like Zhao Yuji is truly serious about this match, Li Yibo said. Yeah, employing tactics to move around isn't commonly seen in All-Stars, no, the commentator said. Indeed. I remember last year that neither Tang Hao nor Sun Xiang employed tactics to move around. They just directly clashed with their opponents instead, Li Yibo said. Coach Li, what do you think this means? The commentator asked. It means Zhao Yuji cares a lot about this match, Li Yibo said, while glancing at his co-caster. Old friend, could you please be a bit more attentive? I just said that it seems like Zhao Yuji is serious about this match, yet you asked me again. Are you testing my ability to phrase things in a different way? Zhao Yuji, who was employing positioning tactics to move around, obviously didn't come out as soon as Windy Rain appeared in his line of sight. Chu Youngshu's experience was abundant. She immediately realized this point, so she decided to stand still, waiting for Zhao Yu's Howling Fire to come out. Turning being on the defensive into taking the initiative. It's not a bad solution, Li Yibo said. The commentator felt like kneeling down and bowing to Li Yibo. Anything that he said had substance. Li Yibo's explanation for Chu Youngshu's action was reasonable, but in reality, she didn't care enough about this match, so she was probably just too lazy to fight for the initiative against Zhao Yuji. Chu Youngshu's Windy Rain just stood there. Zhao Yu's Howling Fire quietly sneaked closer to her from the side. A pro player shouldn't be so easily ambushed. Even Zhao Yuji felt like it was too boring. What a tragedy. His opponent just had to be this god. If it had been anyone else, his opponent wouldn't be so passive, right? I guess I'll just end it beautifully. Seeing that Chu Youngshu didn't seem to be interested in fighting seriously, Zhao Yuji decided to kill her with some beautiful combos, but right when he started planning out how he would go about doing that, Windy Rain suddenly turned around. She pointed her staff and made the first move. The commentator had been listless the entire time, but now he was suddenly so astonished that he was at a loss for words. Chu Youngshu strikes first. What a fierce attack, Li Yibo was more clear-headed. On stage, Windy Rain spells launched one after the other. A huge area of effect explosion devoured Zhao Yuji and brought him into a perilous situation. Could it be that Chu Youngshu's initial attitude had been a setup? The commentator was astonished. Seeing Chu Youngshu's offense, it didn't seem like she didn't cared about the match. Tisk tisk tisk. In the audience seats, Yi Shu clicked his tongue repeatedly. What is it? Chen Guo asked. I heard that Chu Youngshu is in a bad mood today, Yi Shu said. Why? Chen Guo said. It's probably because today is the last episode of My Unusual Girlfriend. She had to miss it, Yi Shu said. Chen Guo didn't know how to describe what she was feeling right now. Chapter 925. There's no next time. My Unusual Girlfriend was the TV drama that all the big TV channels had been broadcasting over the past 3 weeks, topping the viewing charts and sweeping over the crowds. Chen Guo wasn't a huge fan of this sort of things, but she did know about them. However, the captain of Team Misty Rain, Glory's #1 female pro player, would deign to allow the fact that she couldn't watch the finale when it came out to affect her mood. It seemed ridiculous to Chen Guo. Could this be described as letting your concerns mess with your head? Yet knowing that this made Chu Youngshu's current state of mind easy to analyze. Her thoughts weren't even present, so she hadn't been in the mood to react to Zhao Yu's taunt at all. As for her sudden fierce torrent of attacks, it was just a cathartic release of her frustrations at not being able to watch the finale live, not because of Zhao Yu's provocation. If you were to think this was a tactic of hers to mess with your head, then you were simply thinking too much. The sudden surge of attacks had clearly taken Zhao Yuji completely off guard. A blanket of elementalist skills raged across the map, almost unavoidable. Chu Youngshu's mechanics were refined, and she was extremely familiar with the elementalist class, allowing her to predict most of Zhao Yu's countermeasures. This made Zhao Yuji feel as if he was trapped in the palm of her hand. He had hoped that Chu Youngshu would take this seriously, but then she had turned out to be an enthusiastic, disappointing him greatly. Yet now his opponent had suddenly become bold and unrestrained with her attacks, to the point where Zhao Yuji wasn't prepared for it at all. Zhao Yuji wanted to cry. How dirty, that was Zhao Yu's thoughts about Chu Youngshu's actions. He would never be able to guess that it was because she couldn't watch the finale of a popular drama. It took Zhao Yun's everything he had to escape Chu Youngshu's torrent of attacks, and by then, Howling Fire's health had gone down by approximately a fourth. It wouldn't be easy to turn the tides in this situation, but Zhao Yuji still made an effort to readjust his state of mind. If he managed something that was harder to do, then it would prove his worth even more, right? However, Chu Youngshu's performance was at its peak after her fierce offense, pursuing him relentlessly and attacking him viciously. Zhao Yuji had wanted to avoid this barrage for now, but who would have expected that Chu Youngshu would be bursting with it? The buff from not being able to see the finale seemed to be continuous. It seems like Zhao Yuji is struggling to turn the tables. Even Li Yibo dared to comment like this during a livestream. The scales of victory were already tilted too far to one side. Zhao Yuji eventually fell, frustration and refusal to accept this defeat boiling within him. With only a year and a half of experience in the pro circle, he still wasn't very mature, walking down from the player stands with a face filled with rage. The broadcasting showed both the players in various scenes. The winner, Chu Youngshu, didn't seem very happy about her victory either. She seemed as listless as she had been when she had gone on stage. So, the camera took more shots of Zhao Yuji, revealing his anger to the audience in full. Zhao Yuji didn't want to accept this. He felt that Chu Youngshu was playing too dirty. All this effort because she was afraid to lose? Yes, he had to make the audience understand it. Chu Youngshu was terrified to lose to him. He was already a threat in the eyes of Glory's best elementalist. Seeing a shot of himself on the big screen, Zhao Yuji knew that this broadcast was going live to tens of thousands of viewers, hurriedly composing his expression into something less revealing. As he walked onto the stage, looking at Chu Youngshu, he was a sea of calm. That was a good strategy, senior. Zhao Yuji took the mic, not even waiting for the host to speak before initiating conversation with Chu Youngshu. He did his best to act professional and retain his smile, but he was obviously too inexperienced to keep this up with ease. Compared to Huang Xiaoshan's peaceful smile at the camera when he was planning to flip people off, Zhao Yuji strained 100 times as much to keep his smile. This was made evident just by looking at the close-up of him. Zhao Yuji could tell, as well, and found it strained. He tried to adjust the way he curled his lips up, but only managed to make his expression look even more strained. In comparison, Chu Youngshu was much more of a veteran. She smiled casually and said, "It was so-so. This was my own fault for not being careful enough. Seeing how listless you were just now, I had thought you weren't going to be serious about this match. Zhao Yuji pointed out Chu Yongshu's strategy, but was subtle about it, just like how his challenge was. He didn't raise much of a stink over it. So long as you're on the battlefield, you should always give it your all, Chu Yongshu said. This was definitely an exemplar civility. Yes, I need to learn from you, senior. No matter when, I have to give it my all, Zhao Yuji replied. Good luck, Chu Yongshu nodded. Zhao Yuji was quite good at being tactful. Anyone who was observant enough could still easily understand his implications. Yet Zhao Yuji still wasn't satisfied. What he had managed to explain so far was only that he hadn't been able to play to the best of his ability because he was caught off guard, but he had yet to say what he really wanted make known. Seeing Chu Yongshu already turning to return to the player stands, Zhao Yuji hurriedly called after her, next time I won't fall for your trap, senior. Yes. He had fallen for a trap. Zhao Yuji made sure to make these words as clear as possible. He wanted everyone to notice this and then realize how much Chu Yongshu feared him, even needing to trick him to obtain victory. Chu Yongshu had already returned the mic to the host by then, but the mic was just for amplifying their voices for the entire audience to hear. If it was just an interaction between the two on stage, this distance didn't make the mic necessary. Hearing Zhao Yuji hollering, Chu Yongshu turned around. The host could tell that this would be a potential selling point, and Knight charged to Chu Yongshu's side, holding up the mic for her as he saw she was already opening her mouth to speak. Next time? Chu Yongshu seemed a little confused. You're a second year, right? Can you still enter the rookie challenge next year? Zhao Yuji was struck dumb by Chu Yongshu's reply. That was completely off topic. He was just saying this out of courtesy. How was next time any sort of keyword? Yet Chu Yongshu had caught this little loophole to retort, making Zhao Yuji unable to formulate an immediate response. Seeing that he had little reaction, Chu Yongshu turned and continued to walk off. What was that about? Zhao Yuji actually scratched his head in confusion in this shot of him. He wanted to fire back a few words, but heard the host saying the closing lines for the round, thanking the two players for their spectacular match and whatnot. Zhao Yuji couldn't continue to cling to the stage and refused to leave, so he could only return the mic and end this time's plan for rising higher. The two's match held loud thunder, but not much rain. Zhao Yuji didn't raise too much of a stink about it, and Chu Yongshu's attitude was peaceful as well, nothing like the tension in last year's rookie challenges. With these two sent off stage, the event continued. Now there was only one round left. Usually, it would always be a player from the hosting team who would come out to challenge someone at the end, but Team Tiny Herb only had one player who was eligible for the rookie challenge, Gao Yingji. However, Gao Yingji had already participated in the rookie challenges last year, so he couldn't go again. So, this All-Stars broke the tradition, and the player the host announced was Team Heavenly Swords' Lu Guaning. This still caused quite a ruckus among the audience. First, Team Heavenly Swords was also based in B City, and with their skill, they hadn't achieved the level of becoming arch-rivals with Tiny Herb, residing in the same city, so, being from the same city, the Tiny Herb fans would give Heavenly Swords some attention as well. In addition, Lu Guaning was a rather legendary figure. First, he had been a very famous RMB warrior in game, but no one would have thought he would go so far, even to create a pro team and advancing into the Pro League. A normal player who got to this point was at the top of the top. That guy is pretty popular, huh? Chen Guo commented. Haha, Yi Shu laughed, not commenting. He had been in contact with Lu Guaning for quite a while now, and they were becoming closer and closer. However, he hadn't thought that the first time he would see the other was through this. On the big screen was a close-up of Lu Guaning, walking onto the stage. Talking about his appearance, he wasn't particularly comely, but he wasn't unsettled at all, being under the gaze of so many people, walking down step by step casually. Lu Guaning was still considered a rookie in the pro circle. The current battle records of Team Heavenly Swords didn't meet expectations, either, nothing to be proud of. However, his composure when walking down was even better than Glory's current first, Zhou Zekai. Of course, Zhou Zekai's calm was mostly because of his personality. However, Lu Guaning's steady demeanor portrayed that he was someone who had witnessed pomp and ceremony before. He wouldn't feel nervous at all in this sort of situation. The rebroadcast and live host were both introducing Lu Guaning's legendary gaming career. It should be known that this player's identity and position was a little special. He wasn't just a member of a team, he was also the boss of one. With this, even if Team Heavenly Sword's performance didn't meet expectations, his position was extraordinary compared to the other pro players. On the stage, receiving an interview, Lu Guanning was like a fish in water. Much stronger than Zhao Yuji, who had to practice repeatedly just to cover his emotions up with a smile. Hey, do you think he'll challenge you? The surprising thought suddenly popped into Chen Guo's head. Quote. Me? Yi Shu paused for a moment before shaking his head. He won't. He isn't someone who doesn't know what's appropriate. If he really wanted to challenge me, then you would tell me first. That's so boring. Chen Guo was rather eager still, but what Lu Guanning then said crushed her hopes for this drama. Lu Guanning wanted to challenge Yu Feng, the current #1 berserker, transferring from Blue Rain to 100 Blossoms and becoming their core player. Yu Feng had fell into a slump with 100 Blossoms, and some even predicted that they would become the second excellent era. However, as the season progressed, Team 100 Blossoms got their feel back and their performance began to improve. The combo of Yu Feng's Blossoming Chaos and Zhou Yuan's Blooming Blossoms were syncing up more and more, gaining more and more popularity and support from the normal players. There was no doubt that Yu Feng and Blossoming Chaos would be voted into the All-Stars this time. As for Blue Rain, his spot in the main roster had been filled in by the rookie Lu Hanwen. Though there was a new berserker player to control Brilliant Edge, he wasn't on the field much and his performance wasn't particularly eye-catching, so he didn't really have the competitive abilities required by the voters to participate in the All-Stars. The title of the first berserker followed Yu Feng, returning to 100 Blossoms.